So we have a bit of an announcement to make. So Aaron is going to be transitioning, and rather than just give you the Cliff Note version, we're going to try and tell a little bit more of a story this morning so that you guys can get a little more window into Aaron's process. Do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Really the story, I want to go back to when we first moved down here to California. So in the summer of 2016, my wife, and at the time it was just my wife and I, Shianne and Sienna, it was about a year and a half, moved down here to the Monterey area, and with the hopes of planting and starting a church, which was the reason we moved down here. And shortly after that, after we got settled, we began leading and planting and starting a church out in Seaside. And that season was, to be honest, a very difficult season for us. It was a lot of learning, a lot of growth. Looking back on that season, I remember the main reason why, and this will sound very silly and naive, but the main reason I wanted to church plant was because I love teaching. I love getting to study the Bible, to communicate, and to be able to open up God's Word and help people understand it. And I just assumed that I love teaching. People say I'm halfway decent at it, therefore I can go plant a church. And that's a very bad motivation to go want to plant a church. And so God really had to work in my own heart and my own life just to kind of root out some of those false assumptions and those kind of ill motives to wanting to just be up front and to teach 50 times a year and to just learn how to work through some of that. And that leading a church, being a pastor, and teaching, while there is some similarity, they're also very different things. And so, like I was saying, it was a very difficult season learning that the hard way. And so that church lasted about a year and a half in Seaside, and by about the summer, fall of 2018, we were really praying through and deciding, should we continue this church plant or not? And it was getting to the point where I was very tired, very burnt out, and really not wanting to church plant, let alone be in pastoral ministry really ever again. And so by October of 2018, we officially decided to close that church down. And like I just mentioned, I was done. I was not wanting to serve in pastoral ministry ever again, and we didn't know what was going to come next. We thought I wanted to just get out of here and go back to Washington where my parents are. But my lovely wife, Shianne, was like, no, I think we're meant to stay. We didn't know what that meant. I remember the Sunday we announced to our church plant that we would be closing down. We gave, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 weeks notice just to kind of help people find a local church in the area, to give them some processing time. And I remember that following week, one of our close friends in that church was walking just outside here on 14th and Central and noticed this beautiful building that's somewhat old, but also a new sign that was out front, and that caught her attention. And I think she emailed Tony. I think they had coffee. And then soon after that, she texted us and said, hey, there's this church out in Pacific Grove that you guys should check out. I think you and the pastor would connect well. And I remember after that, we closed the church down. And in that process, we ended up simply attending here in the fall of 2018. And it's been a terrific season since then.
I remember the first time I saw you, because you were coming in the kids' entrance, I think with one child at that time.
Yes.
And I remember that moment really clearly, because it's been just this really beautiful season together. And we had no idea right that time that you'd be on staff, or we'd go through a global pandemic together, or any
Totally.
So many moving pieces. So maybe just tell us a little bit about the Wellspring season.
Yeah, so again, the fall of 2018 was when we arrived, and like Tony mentioned, there was no talk or understanding that I would join the staff team at all. It was just for us to find a place to attend church and to just simply be and to heal and to grow and to follow Jesus and fall in love with Him once again. And Wellspring has been more than that, and then some. When we came, like I said, in the fall, I was very just beat up and tired. And just immediately, right off the bat, I think Matthew Kroll, one of the first people that reached out, Aaron and Claire, if you remember them when they were around, these people just reached out and said, we want to be your friends, we're going to connect, you're coming over for dinner this week. And just right off the bat, we felt so loved and so connected to you all. And this season for us as a family, with our marriage, with kids, and eventually formal staff ministry opportunities has been the best season we've had. And I don't just say that to say that. So many of you all, the friendships, the connections, and the opportunities we've had to be in your lives, for you to be in our lives, have been so not only healing for us, but just life-giving. Like, I love being with you all. I love getting to be here on Sundays. I love getting to have you over at our home and the various events that we have as a church throughout the year. It's so life-giving to be a part of this church, and just even the ministry opportunities that we've had together. A few months after we started attending, Tony kind of initiated, hey, there might be an opportunity for you to come on staff, and kind of conversations began to start, and by the beginning of 2019, that kind of became more formalized, and an opportunity that seemed to be a really good fit. I remember, just back up real quick, when we first came to Wellspring, a lot of bitterness was in my heart, because what Tony was doing, what Wellspring was doing, was exactly what I was trying to do in our church plant just a few miles down the road. And so I walk in here on a Sunday, I listen to some of the sermons online, I read the language on the website, and I go, that's exactly what I wanted to do, God. Like, why is it working here and not over there? And so one of those things that God had to work through in my own heart, but to the point being is that our chemistry, our philosophy of ministry, all these things were just cohesive together, and they have been. And it's been such a joy to work alongside of you and to learn from you, and to really just have this opportunity here at Wellspring to, I think, kind of from the church plant, I wanted to be a lead pastor, I wanted a church plant because I love teaching, but Tony's really helped, Wellspring has really helped kind of refine and kind of bring clarity to who I am and who I am not. I love teaching, I love getting to be with people, but I'm not like the church planter type. That's totally Tony's gifting, right? Those of you who know Tony, he has that take lead, get things done, vision, all that sort of stuff. I'm much more comfortable being kind of in the current role that I am right now, with still opportunities to teach and to be with people and disciple and all that sort of stuff. So Wellspring, and Tony in particular, and so many of you, have really helped bring just a tremendous sense of clarity and just conviction as to how God has made me, and to be okay with who I am not, and to be rejoicing and thankful for how God has gifted me and equipped me to lead and serve and to be a part of his church. And so, yeah, all that to say, again, I can't just reiterate enough how much you all have meant to us. And I think the hardest part in this whole process is knowing that we'll have to say goodbye to so many people that we love. These friendships, these relationships have meant so much to Shianne and I. So many of you have invested in our kids, spent time with them. They love you. They look up to you. And Wellspring has really modeled what it looks like to be a New Testament church, brothers and sisters, demonstrating and serving and showing love to one another. And our family has experienced that. So I just wanted to say thank you for that gift that you've been to us. So yeah, and that kind of brings us, I guess, into the transition piece itself. And all of that kind of in the back of the story there is that for about a year or so now, my wife and I have been praying and processing together kind of what it looks like as our family continues to grow. So like I said, when we came to Wellspring, Kason, who was not even 2, I don't think at the time. Sienna was, I think, maybe 2.5 or 3, very little kids. Since then, we've had 2 more kids since we've been a part of Wellspring, so now we have 4 kids total. And we got a puppy for some reason this year on top of that. So that we did that one to ourselves. So. But God has blessed us with a growing family, and our heart has been that as our kids are still really young and at this age, that Shianne's able to stay at home with the kids, and that's something that together we and I have both really wanted for our family in this season going forward. And so, as many as you know, living in this area is very, very expensive, and the cost of living just only continues to go up. And so it became fairly clear, a couple months ago, that the Lord would be opening some other opportunities for my wife and I. And again, you asked me 6 months ago, 12 months ago, this is exactly where we wanted to be. I had no idea or no plans to ever transition. I am and have been so content in the best sense of that word, being here and serving here at Wellspring. But a couple months ago, it became just very clear that the Lord was going to open some really amazing opportunities for us as a family. And where the Lord is leading us, and Tony kind of alluded to this, is that by the beginning of next year, so January, our family and I will be moving to Omaha, Nebraska, to be a part of a church called Coram Deo Church, and the role I get to serve is to be a teaching pastor there. And it's a church that I've been somewhat familiar with from a distance. I like to read and listen to podcasts, so I've been familiar with their lead pastor and the work that they've done, and it's an opportunity that when I first found out about it, I was very excited about from the get-go, and just even reading the job description and looking at some of the things on their website, there just seemed to be this perfect alignment with both kind of what I mentioned before about how God has shaped me and equipped me over these past few years, and just my heart for ministry and getting an opportunity to really focus on teaching and discipleship and being with people sort of in those settings. And so we started kind of talking back and forth with Coram Deo maybe about 2 months ago. It was actually right before Juniper was born. And that process has gone just so smoothly, and the back and forth and the interviews, and their lead pastor came out here to visit Shianne and I, and then I think it'd be 2 weeks ago now, we were in Omaha for our final visit, and then they made us, the formal offer and all that sort of stuff. And so we were very excited that when that kind of became official, and at the same time, just very sad at the same time because of you all and because of the relationships we've built here. And all that to say, though, Shianne and I feel just really excited about this next season. Really just, again, thankful for the season we've had here, but filled with a ton of anticipation and a ton of joy for what's ahead. It'll be an opportunity where Shianne will be able to stay at home. There's no worry on that end at all. And it's a role where I get to kind of focus in on things that I'm most passionate about and that I really enjoy getting to be a part of. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a little bit of
It's awesome.
kind of the narrative there. But, yeah, anything else to that?
Well, yeah, I have a lot
Yeah,
to say. First, I just want to say, though, if you have questions for Aaron, he'll be around till the end of December. So, hug him, ask questions, pray for him, pray for us. I think many of you, like me, feel very sad. You start crying, now I'm going to cry. I feel really sad to lose someone who's been such a partner and a gift to me. Like, I've just learned so much from you. It's one of the lonely things about pastoral ministry is you often feel like you're kind of on your own. And you're like, Aaron you've just been such a beautiful gift. And I feel like you've helped me to fall in love with the scriptures in a way that, I didn't anticipate and I didn't expect. And it's going to follow me in pastoral ministry forever. So incredibly grateful for your friendship and our time together. It's not over yet, but, and probably like me, you guys are feeling a little sad. And I also just want to say, there's also, I think, a background thing, and maybe I feel it more than you do, of anxiety of what are we going to do now? I don't know, add it to your Advent prayer list. But we're working on it. We're never going to replace Aaron. That's not possible. But I think God will provide. Right? Throughout this entire church plant, God has provided. And I was just reminded, because I've been fairly overwhelmed by this, as you can imagine. I was like, man, God has been so faithful. Who am I to be afraid or anxious? God has held this church from day one. And it wasn't because I was more of a church planter, as Aaron alluded to. God has just, for some reason, decided, you know what? Here you go. He's going to continue to do that. And we're just not going to be afraid, and we're not going to be anxious. And if you find yourself going down that road of panic, turn back to Jesus. Because it's not Aaron, it's not me, it's not our staff team that provides for this church. And that's the posture we're going to adopt. And we're going to do our best based on who God brings to cover so that balls are not falling all over the place. But we're just going to try and be faithful with what God gives us. We're going to do our best. So, if you're sad, give Aaron a hug, give him a high five, grab him, take him out to dinner. Send him a parting gift to cover some of the costs of the transition. I was wondering, though, since you're kind of in the midst of a transition, if you want to say the blessing today, just as sort of a blessing of God being present to us in the midst of all the moving pieces of life. The second thing I want to say is we're going to actually pray for his family. I think it's the 12th. We're going to do Christmas on the 18th, so the week before that. We're going to invite the Mattox household up here. We're going to have all of us that love Aaron come around him and lay hands on him as a way of sending him off and blessing this. Today is more just, here's the story. The 12th or whatever day it is we're going to lay hands and bless and send you. Make sense? All right. Stand for a blessing, please.
If you can, just have your feet flat on the floor and just your hands open as a way of receiving what the Lord has for you this morning. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. And may he bring you home rejoicing once again to these doors. It's good to be with you all. One thing we do like to do every Sunday afterwards. Thank you. Thank you. One thing we like to do afterwards, after our main gathering here, is in this room behind me. We have a bunch of food, and we'll bring some tables and chairs out just to stick around, hang out, share some food together, build some connections and relationships. But it's good to be with you all. But let's go hang out together.